HOA reported my garden as unkempt, so I reported them for violating their own rules. You think you can pull this kind of shit and get away with it? I barely have time to process the words before the HOA president, Charles Whitmore, a man with a permanent scowl and a superiority complex, slams the violation notice onto my porch railing. Do you even fucking read the rules, or are you just playing dumb? It's 9 a.m. on a Saturday. I'm standing in my pajamas, coffee in hand, while Whitmore, red-faced and fuming, acts like I just set fire to the neighborhood. A few of the usual HOA lackeys, gray-haired, stiff-spined, nosy as hell, stand behind him, nodding like a damn choir. I take a slow sip of coffee and glance at the notice. Same bullshit, different day. Unkempt appearance. Landscaping in violation of HOA Regulation 14A. I repeat, raising an eyebrow. Charles, you want to tell me exactly what's unkempt about it? Whitmore scoffs. Are you fucking kidding me? Look at this goddamn jungle. Grass too tall, weeds in the flower beds, and that damn trellis looks like it came from a fucking junkyard. I glance at my yard. My garden. Vibrant, overflowing with life. Raised beds with ripe tomatoes, climbing ivy stretching along my handmade wooden trellis. Bees humming lazily around the lavender. It's a small, wild contrast to the sterile, HOA-approved landscapes, identical, soulless lawns with precisely edged grass and zero personality. My garden, I say, emphasizing the word, isn't violating anything. Whitmore snorts. The fuck it isn't. He jabs a stubby finger at me. HOA bylaws say all visible landscaping must be maintained to neighborhood standards. This looks like a goddamn hippie commune. A sharp laugh escapes me. Neighborhood standards? Do you mean your standards? One of his cronies, Margaret Silver Bob, permanent frown, loves to call herself the moral backbone of the community and crosses her arms. We have expectations here. You don't just get to do whatever the hell you want. We're a community. We have order. I take another sip of coffee. Right. Order. And what about Mrs. Jenkins' rotting fence? Or Tom's bald-ass lawn full of weeds? Or, oh, I don't know, your goddamn driveway, Charles. You still haven't pressure-washed that oil stain, have you? Margaret gasps. One of the other men mutters something under his breath. Whitmore's face darkens. This isn't about me, he growls. It never is, I say coolly. Whitmore's eps are closer, invading my space. And for a second, I think the bastard might take a swing at me. You think you're smart, he says in a low voice. You think your little garden bullshit makes you special. I think, I say, lowering my coffee cup, that you're a hypocrite. Whitmore's jaw clenches. You'll regret this, he says. We'll fucking bury you in fines. I smile. They don't know it yet, but I've already started digging their grave. This is Eagle Crest Estates, a suburban maze of white fences, beige houses, and picture-perfect lawns. On the surface, it's peaceful, but if you listen closely, you'll hear the undercurrent of quiet tyranny. The HOA controls everything. Too much personality? Violation. Wrong shade of paint? Violation. Is the lawn too green? Violation. Is the lawn not green enough? Violation. I moved in 2 years ago, thinking I could ignore them, keep to myself, grow my little garden, mind my business. I was wrong. Whitmore and his pack of rule-obsessed minions have made it their mission to break me. I'm not the first to be targeted, but I sure as hell plan to be the last. Because what they don't know, what they can't even imagine, is that while they've been watching me, I've been watching them, and I'm about to turn their own rules against them. That morning wasn't the first time I clashed with Whitmore. It was just the loudest. It started small, passive-aggressive letters in my mailbox, a friendly reminder about neighborhood regulations. But when I didn't fall in line, the real games began. Margaret was the first one to report me. Her official reason? My wild, unruly landscape disrupts the aesthetic harmony of the community. Translation? I hate that you're not like us. At first, I played nice. I trimmed the edges of my lawn and made sure no vines crawled past my property line. But it was never enough. Every week, a new complaint, a new fine, a new excuse to harass me. Then, I started looking closer at them. They ignored the violation. Irons. At the rules. They bent for themselves, at the one loophole that would tear their whole kingdom apart. And now, with Whitmore standing here, still fuming, thinking he's won, I realize something. He has no idea he's already lost. Whitmore thinks he's won. He struts away from my porch like a victorious dictator, his little flock of HOA minions trailing behind him. He's wrong. The first violation notice was just a warning shot. Now they're bringing out the artillery. By Monday, I find 3 new citations taped to my front door like a damn eviction notice. It's laughable. None of this is against the bylaws, at least, not the way they've been selectively enforcing them. I walked my street that morning, coffee in one hand, citations in the other. A quick scan of the neighborhood shows what I already know. I start snapping pictures. Time to build my damn case. But I don't respond to the citations. Not yet. That's what they want, an emotional reaction, a frantic scramble to comply. Instead, I smile, rip the notices in half, and drop them in the trash. Because this is war now. And I don't play by their rules. By the end of the week, the HOA's harassment reaches a new level of absurdity. I got a letter stating that my repeated noncompliance will result in escalating fines and potential legal action. The fines: $500 per violation. The legal action: threats of a lien against my property. Jesus Christ, I mutter, scanning the paperwork. They're trying to financially strangle me. But here's the thing. I know the law better than they do. I spent that night poring over the HOA bylaws, county regulations, and city ordinances. And what do I find? Their Achilles heel. I cross-check every complaint they've made against me. Each one is shit, cherry-picked nonsense to target me specifically. By morning, I have a file, a real, legal-grade, chokehold of a case. But I still don't act. Not yet. Because I want them to dig deeper. The next HOA meeting is in 2 weeks. If they're planning to bring the hammer down on me, it'll be there. That means 2 more weeks of surveillance, 2 more weeks of evidence gathering, 2 more weeks of Whitmore getting cocky as hell. So I bait them. They take the bait immediately. By the following Monday, I have another stack of violations, including one that contradicts their OI laws. I laugh. Out loud. They're so desperate to control me. They're not even covering their tracks anymore. That night, I print out every violation letter, highlight every contradiction, every illegally enforced rule, and every ignored infraction from other homes. I place the thick dossier into a neatly labeled binder. And then, for the final touch, I send an anonymous tip to a local journalist about potential HOA corruption in Eagle Crest Estates. Because if there's one thing worse than a pissed-off homeowner, it's a pissed-off public. It doesn't take long for Whitmore and his pack of power-drunk clowns to realize I'm not backing down. So they escalate. By Friday, I have an official HOA hearing notice taped to my front door like a goddamn eviction warrant. They're pushing for a lien on my house. Whitmore, the smug bastard, even calls me personally, his voice oozing fake authority. This isn't a fight you want, buddy, he says. I've seen people lose their homes over this kind of bullshit. Do you really want to go down that road? I let the silence stretch for a few seconds. Charles, I say, my voice calm. Deadly, you ever play chess? He hesitates. What? You just put your queen in check. I hang up. What he doesn't know is that I've already filed complaints against the HOA. Whitmore thinks he's tightening the noose. He doesn't realize it's around his neck. It starts with a single email. The night after Whitmore's threat, I anonymously sent a message to the neighborhood forum. Subject line: HOA abuses power. Are you next? I lay it all out. Within H&T, the forum explodes. Some of my neighbors came forward immediately. But not everyone's on board. For now. But I can feel it. The neighborhood is cracking. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. I'm sitting on my porch, enjoying my coffee, when I see it. A truck pulls up, and 2 uniformed men step out with clipboards. City code enforcement. They walk straight past my house, straight to Whitmore's. I watch, grinning, as they start snapping photos of the overgrown backyard, the Alf-built patio, the broken fence he never fixed. Then another car pulls up, the local news van. Oh, this is better than Christmas. I casually stroll over just as Whitmore bursts out of his house, red-faced and furious. What the hell is this? He barks at the code officers. One of them, a no-nonsense woman with a clipboard, barely glances up. Routine inspection, sir. Like hell it is. He snaps. This is harassment. Who reported me? I clear my throat. Whitmore whips around. His eyes lock on mine. And he knows. You son of a... TSK, Charles. I wag a finger. Neighborhood standards, remember? For months, he's been hammering me about a garden. Now, the city is coming for his entire goddamn house. The reporter steps in, microphone in hand. Mr. Whitmore, we've received multiple complaints about selective HOA enforcement. Any comment? Whitmore sputters. His minions, Margaret, Allen, the others, hover nearby, watching in horror. I lean in close, just enough for him to hear. You really should have read your own rules, buddy. And just like that, the HOA's reign begins to crumble. Thursday, 6 p.m. HOA meeting. The room is packed. The entire neighborhood has crammed into the Eagle Crest Community Center, a bland little building that smells like stale coffee and cheap carpet. At the front, Whitmore sits like a king on a crumbling throne, his minions flanking him, Margaret, Allen, and 2 other board members, who always nod when he speaks like they're scared their heads will fall off if they don't. A microphone crackles. This meeting will come to order, Whitmore says, his voice strained. He's rattled. The city hit him with citations, the news reporter asked too many questions, and now, his kingdom is under siege. I lean back in my chair, arms crossed. Waiting. First order of business. He grumbles, flipping through some papers. We will address ongoing community concerns regarding. Oh, you mean your violations? I interrupt, loud enough for everyone to hear. Head snapped toward me. A murmur ripples through the room. Whitmore's jaw tightens. This meeting is about your noncompliance. Mine. I laugh. Loud. Deliberate. Charles, buddy, I think we all know you've got bigger problems. I slam a thick binder onto the table. The sound chose. This, I say, flipping it open, is a record of every single rule violation you have ignored for years. Your backyard. Noncompliant. Your driveway. A hazard. Your financials. Oh, Charles, those are the real problems, aren't they? Whitmore goes still. The room? Dead silent. And then I dropped the bomb. I submitted an official complaint to the state HOA regulatory board last week. Whitmore's face drains of color. Margaret gasps. Allen shifts uncomfortably. And the best part? I'm not done. Now, I continue, flipping a page. Let's talk about the HOA's financial misconduct. Whitmore sputters. That's nonsense. I turn to page 1. HOA dues collected over the last 5 years. $500,000. A murmur spreads through the crowd. That's a hell of a lot of money. Itemized expenditures. I continue. Routine maintenance. Minimal. Landscaping. Under budget. But somehow, we're missing about $50,000 a year in unexplained expenses. Whitmore's hands clench into fists. His face is shiny with sweat. Where did the money go, Charles? Silence. The crowd leans in. Watching. Waiting. A neighbor, Paul, the guy who got fined for his garden hose, speaks up. Wait, are you saying our HOA dues just disappeared? Oh, I'm not saying it, I reply, flipping another page. I'm showing it. I pull out a printed email. See, I contacted our old HOA treasurer. You know, before she mysteriously resigned. Turns out she had some concerns about questionable transactions, large payments marked for consulting fees that didn't add up. Margaret, ever THL bootlicker, jumps in. This is slander. Charles would never. Then where's the money, Margaret? I snap. She freezes. Whitmore slams his gavel on the table. This meeting is over. Oh no, it fucking isn't. I stand up. Not yet, Charles. Because I'm not done. I turn to the last page. The HOA has been violating its bylaws for years. You've selectively enforced rules, threatened residents, and illegally levied fines. And guess what? Under state law, if an HOA board is found guilty of mismanagement, I let the word sink in. The entire board can be removed and replaced. Gasps. Someone in the back whispers, asterisk holy shit. And then, for the final kill shot, I already filed the motion with the state. And if it's approved, I grin. You, Margaret, Alan, you're all out. Whitmore erupts. Oh, I don't think, I say, locking eyes with him. I know. Because this isn't just revenge. This is justice. Whitmore storms out. Coward. Margaret follows, her lip quivering. Alan just disappears. And me? I stand there, letting the moment sink in. Then, they remove the current HOA board, and Paul calls out. A second later, Whitmore's neighbors turn against him. The HOA attorney, a quiet man in a suit who's been watching this entire thing unfold, steps forward. Legally, he says, adjusting his glasses, we'll need a formal vote. But given the circumstances, he looks around at the furious homeowners. I'd say the board is finished. The room erupts. Cheers. Shouting. The HOA just fucking collapsed in real time. Whitmore is done. And me. I grab my binder, take a deep breath, and walk out of that meeting victorious. By the time I wake up the next morning, the neighborhood is on fire. Not literally, though I wouldn't be surprised if Whitmore set his own damn house ablaze on the way out. But the fallout from last night's HOA meeting is spreading like wildfire. The forum is chaos. That last one. Oh, that one hits. Because as it turns out, when you expose a fraud in front of his entire kingdom, people start asking the right fucking questions. By mid-afternoon, Whitmore's entire operation is crumbling. By the end of the week, he's won. No goodbye. No speech. Just unleashed. And the best part? His driveway is still a disaster, because nobody is coming to fix it now. The neighborhood watches in stunned silence as the once mighty dictator fades into irrelevance. Checkmate, motherfucker. A week later, I get an envelope in the mail. At first, I thought it was another HOA notice. But then I see the return address. The State HOA Regulatory Board. I rip it open. Inside, a formal letter stating that all my fines and all my violations have been officially nullified. Gone. Poof. Like they never fucking happened. I let out a long, slow breath. It's over. For the first time in months, I walk into my backyard, kneel, and start working on my garden. No stress. No fear. No HOA goons waiting to pounce. Just me. The dirt. The sun. The quiet. And as I dig my fingers into the soil, I realize something. This isn't just a garden. It's a statement. It's a reminder that I fought back and won. And no one, no fucking one, is taking it from me again. The weeks roll on. The HOA is structured this time with the EW board, actual residents, not power-hungry assholes. The new board gives a shit. They UT unnecessary fees, refunded past victims, and focused on keeping the neighborhood fair, not oppressive. And the best part? My garden? Untouched. More people have started planting their own. The same HOA that once tried to control everything is now encouraging individuality. Because people finally realized something. This neighborhood was never about Whitmore's rules. It was about us. And now, for the first time, it belongs to us. I sit on my porch one evening, watching the sun dip below the rooftops. Whitmore is won. The HOA is fixed. The garden is thriving. And me. I smile, take a sip of my drink, and let out a satisfied sigh. Because this was never about a garden. It was about standing up and winning. And goddamn did I win.